Voices from the Mausoleum is brought to you by the You Run Podcast Network and yourunpodcast.com.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome to another episode of 5 Influential Horror Movies, a series where I talk to all kinds of horror fans, and we talk about their most influential movies and why they picked them. Today, I have someone who's never been on the channel before, which is always super exciting. Today, I'm joined by Sylvester Barzey, who is an author. And though I tell you, authors are some of the most exciting people to talk to about influential horror because it's just ends up in the writing and there's just always really cool stories around it. So that's always super fun.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And before we jump into your list, you just had a book come out in July called Camp Lanier. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of talk about that and tell everybody what's going on with that very interesting book because I live not super far from Lake Lanier.
Yes. We live close to the hauntings. We do. So Camp Lanier is a YA horror. I feel like it's like Holes meets like Friday the 13th and
Cool.
like Kindred or something. But it's about this girl named Taylor who goes to a predominantly white high school.
Yeah.
And she ends up getting caught for shoplifting, and her friends just kind of railroad her, so it's all on her. So she has to choose between going to jail or doing a work release program at a summer camp called Camp Lanier, and she chooses the work release program.
Sure.
And when she gets there, the camp is just kind of off. Like the work release people are kind of being treated like subhuman, and she lucked out because they allowed her to be a counselor instead of a red jumpsuit person. So,
right, gotcha. Yeah.
And then she starts hearing screams in the middle of the night, and she starts seeing things, and she's wondering if she's going crazy or if she's running into like spirits. And it just slowly starts unraveling, and she has to figure out what's the history of Lanier and why do so many kids go missing every year. So yeah,
very cool.
It's fun. It's been doing well. A lot of people seem to like it. I feel like anyone that like loves like slashers or horror movies would dig it. Yeah.
As always, Sylvester's links are going to be in the description as well as the link for where you can get a copy of Camp Lanier yourself, so everybody can check that out as well. So super pumped to start talking about your list. So the first one on your list is Candyman. I presume the original.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
So I say Candyman's kind of like it was like my gateway horror movie. When I was young, I was afraid of everything horror. Like my brother brought home like 3D glasses from Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay.
And I thought they were cool 3D glasses till I figured out where they were from, and I freaked out. So one night, my mother left me with my sisters, and they convinced me to watch Candyman with them.
Oh, no.
And as a kid, I like to rationalize things to calm myself down. So I'm just like, Freddie will never get me because I don't live on Elm Street. Jason won't get me. I'm never going to camp. Michael only wants to kill his family members, so I'm okay. But Candyman was different. So I grew up in the projects in New York City, in the Bronx. So the scene where they go to that park and there's like that bathroom, our park bathroom was across the street from my window. So I was like, I'm gonna die tonight. That's what's gonna happen. I was like, it's over. And I watched the movie with my sisters, and I was freaked out. And they locked me in the bathroom. They did the whole Candyman thing, but it just kind of shifted. And instead of me just continuously being afraid, I just started seeking out more horror after that and watching more. So
interesting.
Yeah, Tony Todd gave me a ton of nightmares and also set me down a path of horror. So yeah.
That's really cool. My sisters are to blame for my first horror movie too, which was Poltergeist, which is nowhere near, in my opinion, the same level of impact that something like Candyman would be. But it's siblings are the best, aren't they?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I don't even I've seen Candyman's actually one of very few movies that I own physicals of. I'm not super into physical media, but I really love that one. And so I do own it. And I saw it. I got into that one when I was much older, which I think works out for the best because I think I got a lot more out of it watching it as an older me than I would have when I was so young. But yeah, it's a great film to be your like intro to
Yeah.
horror, basically.
Definitely when I've revisited it as an adult, like you get a lot more from it. Because like
Yes.
when you're a kid, you're just kind of wrapped up in the mythology of it and
Yeah,
wrapped
the
up
lore.
in Candyman. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
No,
when
for
you're
sure.
an adult, you can see the real world horrors of
Yes.
everything that's going on. So yeah.
Yeah,
It's definitely a deep movie.
yeah, it's much more emotional experience as a grown up, I feel. And
Mhm.
then when I saw the continuation in 2021, 20 something.
Yes.
I'm not exaggerating. I like at the end when the credits are rolling and you see the puppets and stuff, like I was in shambles. Like it was such a beautifully done film, but it was very emotional, like to watch and
Yeah.
to see the things play out the way they did. But yeah, Candyman is a very deep film. It's got a lot to say. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the sequel was like an amazing legacy sequel. They
I
added so much to
totally
the
agree.
universe and they still just kept it nice. And yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. And yeah, the puppet thing was just like just seeing all the other Candyman stories. I was like, yeah, it's definitely
So well
heartbreaking.
done.
So yeah.
Yeah, not Naya or Nia DaCosta, who
Mhm.
directed it, did a phenomenal
Yeah.
job. Very like the way the camera angles and that she did a great job. Like I
Oh,
became an
she did.
immediate fan of her after seeing because I knew Jordan Peele was involved, but I
Mhm.
didn't know who she was at the time. And then when I was looking into it to do a review, I was like, well, who is this? Like this is she's the reason it looks so good. Like it was she did a phenomenal job. I'm a permanent fan of hers. Like anything she touches, I'm like, and I think she's actually going to be involved in one of the 28 Days movies that they're working on because they're going to do a trilogy. I think she's going to be directing one of them, but she's
Yeah, I
great.
think she's directing the first one that's coming
Is
up.
it? I couldn't remember.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, no, super powerful film. And I love that it was that it got to be because I'm the mirror stuff in general as a kid is like super scary. Candyman, Bloody Mary, like all those little like
Yeah.
super scary.
Yeah, especially
Um,
since you bring it upon yourself. Like
I know it's totally self-inflicted, right?
yeah. You have no one to blame when they step out the mirror. They were minding their own business in their mirror
You
land.
did this. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, Candyman's great. I don't, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't think that one has been on this series before. I don't think so, which is cool.
Oh,
I love
really?
that it
Okay, that's
hasn't.
cool.
Yeah. Um, so your second one is actually one of my influential movies as well, which is Scream.
Yes. Scream is my heart. I love Scream so much.
Yeah.
I love Scream so much. I always tell people Scream has saved my life like a few times because I suffer from like depression and a lot
Yeah.
of stuff. And when I was in the military, it was kind of really bad. And
Yeah.
I've watched Scream with friends and stuff, and it's helped a lot. So, but yeah,
Oh, I love
Scream.
that.
Like when I look back on my like horror life as a child, my sisters
Yeah.
are always there, which is really weird
Yeah.
because none of them watch horror now, and they all deny it. So I guess I have an imaginary sister.
They made it up.
Yeah, because they're just like, I don't remember seeing that with you. I was like, okay, well, fine. But yeah, Scream was so good because I feel like I was really just kind of discovering old slashers and stuff. And then
Sure.
Scream just revitalized everything. I
Oh,
already knew I loved the Wes Craven. Like that
yeah.
was just kind of a given. So
Sure.
when Scream came about, I was definitely into the whole slasher aspect. I love the whole final girl aspect.
Yeah.
And to this day, I think Sydney's like the best final girl. Like me and my wife argue about it all the time. She says that Lori's the best final girl, and I feel like
Oh,
Sydney's the best because she's like murdered 10 different people. Lori just has to deal with the same person over and
that's
over again.
that's true.
Sydney has to figure out who this person is.
Over and over again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely love Scream. I love all the sequels. I
Mhm.
feel like I'm a big fan of 3, mostly because
Okay.
I have to defend Roman a lot. I feel like
Yeah.
Roman respect, and I was like, he did this solo. Nobody else did it. He was running around doing this by himself. And then I remember one person was just like, well, originally there was supposed to be a second killer. And I was like, well, there wasn't. So I don't know.
Yeah, so that doesn't count.
Yeah. I was like, Roman did this by himself and he started it all from the beginning. They need to put respect on Roman's name, but nobody does.
Yeah, I feel like Scream 3 is like the stepchild of the franchise. Like I feel like it's and to be fair, I don't hate any. I am also a big Scream fan. I don't hate any of the movies, but like there's been times where I've had to rank them. And because 3 is not my favorite, it does tend to go towards the bottom, but I don't hate any of them.
I mean,
and people jump on 3. They're like, absolutely not.
Something has to go at the bottom. It's just
that's true.
Like, sometimes for me, sometimes it's 4, but then when I rewatch 4, I really like how her cousin's crazy. I love that.
Yeah.
Like when she tries to just set up everything at the end and she knifes herself and everything. I was like, this woman is out her mind. I was
She's
like,
throwing herself around.
Yeah, that's what I loved about it. But then like kind of when I like look at the whole series or franchise as a whole, 4, due to the fact that they try to reboot it all, is just kind of on its own. It's by itself. There's no like continuation. There was no really like picking up from the last part. So it's just kind of like standalone movie. So that's why it just kind of gets lower for me sometimes.
Yeah, I get that. 4 is ironically one of my favorites, which is weird because it has one of my least favorite ghost faces in it. And so like, and it's interesting that you say that it's set alone, because you're right. Because when you look at this last one, when they bring Kirby back, it's almost like she's a new character.
Yeah.
Like it didn't feel like, oh, this is Kirby. You know what I mean? Like it felt very.
Yeah, because like if Gail wasn't there, no one would know who Kirby was. No. And even though Gail was there, you never really got the vibe that Gail and Kirby even interacted. Like you knew that Kirby interacted with Dewey, but not like Gail. So it just seemed like they just threw her in there.
Yeah, it's I never thought about it like that until you said it that way, but you're right. It's very much like it's its own thing around the 3 and then, 5 and 6. It feels like it's very like, because I thought that I was excited about the possibility of a reintroduction of Kirby because I loved her, of course, but like when I saw I was left feeling a little like about her specifically, because I was like, they really just didn't do that much, and it really was to me just like a random new character. It didn't really feel connected. So I agree with that.
I actually wanted, like when she first showed up and she was like, I'm FBI agent Kirby, I was like, this has got to be some bullshit. This isn't real. And I was just like, they're gonna find out she's lying and she's got like some kind of podcast going. But no, she was a really FBI agent. I was just like, I think I would podcast Kirby a little more.
I know what you mean. I felt the same way though. I was like, when you meet her and she's talking about being I was like, I don't know. Like, I feel like that's not true. But I also was one of those people that was like, Kirby should be the killer. Because like in the Scream franchise, with Sydney, we get that version of survivor that overcomes, right, and lives a positive life and tries to help other people. I kind of want to see the opposite of that, like someone who survives and then just becomes nuts, like, and just starts killing everybody.
That's why I was so excited about the Sam arc of everything, because for me, I always felt like Sydney has to snap at some point, and then she needs to become Ghostface, because she does it in every movie. Like when you notice, there's a point where Sydney figures out who Ghostface is, and then the tables turn, and then she's like Ghostface. So I was just like, this has to be it. And then when that didn't happen, and they gave us Sam from the get-go, and she's already seeing Billy, I was like, oh, she's gonna do it. And then it all fell apart. So it all fell apart.
I know. It's I went to see 5 and 6 in theaters, like opening weekend. And I was like, because I really am like a really big Scream fan. And so my best friend is kind of like my Scream person. That's who I go see these movies with and have watched these movies with growing up. And we talked about kind of the experiences between the two of 5 and 6. And I think basically we both kind of felt like 5 was a stronger movie, but there was a lot of things I think they could have done to make 6 stronger. And it felt a little too like they played it safe. Like they keep doing this pull and tug, and I don't know. I really just want a survivor that just goes like batshit crazy and just goes like, I want that side of the survivor story, not just the I overcame, I'm stronger, I'm helping people, because I love that too. That's trauma. That can be real life for some people. Like I get that, but I want to see the other side. I want to see
because we've been doing that story since the 90s. It's about time that it shifts at some point. I definitely love 5. I love 6 because, you know, I'm from New York. So it was just, it was Halloween, Ghostface, New York. It was just, I was just like, this is perfect. So I love that. Yeah. It was a nice little coming home for me. And, but I don't know, like I wanted to see what they were going to do with Sam, but then of course everything fell apart with, Spyglass and stuff. But even the new ones were they were playing it a little too safe, because I love the core 4. But you ain't gonna tell me you're gonna survive every time.
Too much.
That was my problem with Dewey and Sydney, and like Dewey got stabbed in every movie, and he kept coming back. This made no except for that last one.
The last time where it didn't happen the way that it normally. That was, but it's like even Gail surviving the attack in her apartment or whatever. I was like, why though? Just kill her off. Like I think that's fine. Like. It's got like there has to be some stakes. Like, you know, if you just know like you're gonna leave the movie and everybody's gonna like when Mindy was like, I think a lot of people really loved her. Like it would have been bold and it probably would have made some people mad, but I personally would have gotten over being mad if she hadn't made it off that train. Like there's gotta be risk. There's gotta be like
somebody just has to. I think I was when they added Kirby and I figured out Kirby wasn't the killer, I was like, clearly Kirby must be here to die. But no. And then like with Gail, they didn't kill Gail, which was weird because I was like, you don't even have Sid right now, so you don't need Gail really. Like,
what's her purpose? Yeah.
Yeah. But no.
Sure.
So definitely.
I actually have. Is he up here? I do. There's an account I follow called what is it called? Stitch something. She hand stitches like.
Oh yes. Yeah, she's awesome.
She's so great. I love her so much. So I bought him from her, and then I had her do a custom. My co-host is also a big please don't fall, is also a big Poltergeist fan. So she did the white beast from Poltergeist for him.
Wow.
Oh,
yeah, she has so much skill. I be looking at them like, wow.
And I gotta tell you, I feel personally like he only cost me $100. I just don't feel like that's that much given what it probably took them to make.
Yeah, it's handcrafted, and it's just like you don't see horror things like that. So it's something that's unique. So yeah, $100 doesn't seem like that.
Yeah, she's great. I'm hoping maybe one day I can get her to come on to do like an artist interview because I'm so fascinated with the work that she does. And she's great to work with too, like as a custom, because I reached out about the beast because she didn't have anything like that. And she was like, oh my God, love to do that. And it was, I mean, it turned out like he's big too, because I mean, you know, obviously he's got to be, because he's got the big arms and stuff, but she did a great job. Perfect.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very cool.
Cool. So your third one is Night of the Living Dead.
Yes, I definitely love Night of the Living Dead. When my writing career started, it was zombie based. So I definitely took a lot of inspiration and stuff from Night of the Living Dead. I even have like what is it, like the lunchbox and things like that. So
I love that. Yeah.
So
very cool.
When did I first watch Night of the Living Dead? I have no idea. But I can tell you when I watched it in Afghanistan with a whole bunch of other soldiers. Okay. And they made fun of Barbara so much in that movie. Like the one thing they kept on saying all week, they were just like, "Stop it, Johnny. You're ignorant." Like someone would, because I was a cook, so someone would just randomly walk into the cafeteria and be like, "Stop it, Johnny."
Oh my God.
after we all watched it together. So yeah. Night of the Living Dead is, I feel like it's so iconic because
Yeah.
it did create a genre. It created
Yeah.
the modern day zombie.
Yes.
And without Night of the Living Dead, we wouldn't have Walking Dead. We wouldn't have 28 Days
No,
Later.
for sure.
We would,
Yeah.
yeah, we would still probably still have voodoo zombies, which, yeah, that's definitely the start of everything. But
Sure.
what we know as zombies now comes from George Romero.
Yeah.
So a lot of us owe him a lot of things, and especially the way that he did it, because his movies, they normally have like strong black males or strong minority figures.
Yep.
And I write in the post-apocalyptic genre.
Yeah.
And a lot of the books don't. It's always like this ex-Navy SEAL white dude who has to save his family. And it kind of bugged me because everybody's just kind of like, I love Night of the Living Dead. I was like, well, you didn't learn nothing from it, so I
I
don't
know.
understand.
No, you didn't. That's so
Like-
true.
Like
Yes.
you're doing the total opposite of what he started
Well,
out
what the
doing.
point was,
And
yes.
yeah,
Yes.
your whole cast
for
is
sure.
white, and it's just like, I don't know. So I just wanted to,
Yeah.
I wanted to like basically like make a love letter to Night of the Living Dead and to Night of the Living Dead, Night of the Comet, all
Oh,
those Dead
yeah, that's a
Alive.
good one.
Yeah, so I wrote Planet Dead, and Planet Dead it's my baby. It's
Yeah.
like 3 books in the main series and like
Uh-huh.
2 novellas, and
Okay.
it stars this woman named Catherine Briggs, and the zombie apocalypse happened. Her family thinks she's dead, so she basically has to travel through America to try to find her husband and her son. And she
Okay.
runs into like cannibalistic clowns and a cult and all these
What?
different things. But yeah, so Night of the Living Dead was a heavy influence for that, because like if you look
Yeah.
at like the first chapter, it takes place in a farmhouse, and it's
Yeah.
basically like the same thing. A girl comes running up to the house, and Catherine
Right.
saves them, just like Ben. So yeah, it shaped me a lot. I love Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah. Is there anything in particular about zombies that just is super appealing to you? Like, is there like a certain element, or was it more just the messaging, or both?
For me, it's never really the zombies. Like the zombies are great and everything, and I think it's nice when they do something that's creative with zombies. But
Yeah.
I just like the apocalyptic aspect of
Yeah.
the world
Okay.
falling apart, and then
Yeah.
you having to find a different version of yourself. Because
Yeah.
like you could be on top of the world as like some big corporate lawyer, and that's not going to matter once the
It does
apocalypse.
not matter.
And
Yeah.
you could be at the bottom of your tax bracket, like as
Yeah.
I don't know who's at the bottom of the tax bracket, but you can. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No, for
I
sure.
like that aspect. I like the fact
Yeah.
that your whole life just changes.
Yeah.
But I do love zombies because I can't read regular apocalyptic things when they're just like, oh, the new kid. I was like, I don't care about this.
Yeah, I don't I definitely need an edge to my post-apocalyptic
Yeah.
stuff, whether I'm watching it or reading it. I love
Mhm.
that. I love the way you said that about the kind of basically this like analysis of humanity and what each person's humanity means when the world is over,
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
you know, it's like some of, at least for me, and it sounds like you probably feel similarly, a lot of the things that are zombie related or zombie themed that work the best because they're an observation of humanity. When
Yeah.
there's no consequences, who are you really? When it's life
Yes.
or death, who do you become? And it's like I joke with my partner all the time because I'm more mean and she's super nice. And so I'm always like when we play Left 4 Dead, and I'm like, stop trying to save the computer people, just let them die. I'm like, just let them die. I'm like, see, when there's a real zombie apocalypse, you can't just bring people into the safe room. Like you have
can't
to let
save
people,
everybody.
you can't trust them, you know. And so it's because I think that's who I would be.
Yeah.
Apocalypse. I'd be
Yeah.
like,
I think there's like this meme, and it's a Superman meme, but it fits perfectly with the zombie apocalypse. And it's like Man of Steel, when he gets like picked on by his dad for saving the bus of kids, and he's like, what was I supposed to do, let him die? And the meme's like, yeah.
yeah.
So that's the zombie apocalypse right there. It's just like, you're just gonna let them starve? Yes.
I
we
love
might need to.
that.
Like-
Yeah, those are some of the best themes, like that work the best in, like, specifically in zombie films, is that understanding of like what people would do in these circumstances and how they would. Yeah, I think the way you said that, I think was perfect, because that's exactly how I feel about zombie stuff. I and don't get me wrong, I can deal with the silly zombies and the over the top zombies or the poorly edited zombies or whatever, but the ones that I think end up being favorites for me are the ones that are about humans, which, like, Train to Busan is one of my favorites, and it's very much an observation of humanity. It's so good. Yeah.
And they did it so well, especially for that small area. Like, once the deal was just like, we can't let them in because they might be infected, I was like, oh, everything shifted.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, everything shifted. That was such a good movie. I love it.
Yeah. It's super emotional. You get so invested in those people. And it really does go through people adjusting to who they need to be now. And it's the bad, the kind of in between, and the good. And it kind of shows you this full spectrum of what people could be like based on how we meet them, and then, where they end up, which I love. It's so good. Yeah. I don't think this next one has been on here. Maybe I'm trying to remember. I can't remember. But your next one is The Lost Boys.
Ah, yes. I love The Lost Boys. The Lost Boys came out in 1987, and so did I. So I came into the world with The Lost Boys. And
oh, nice.
out with The Lost Boys. So yes, I love The Lost Boys. It's just like, for me, it's just like Night of the Living Dead, because The Lost Boys has shaped vampires. Well, for the vampires in the 90s were all pretty much based around the Lost Boys. Everybody loves Buffy. Buffy's vampires were modeled after the Lost Boys. And it's just like, without them, like, we probably would have had more Nosferatu and more Dracula zombies. But now we've got like, now we've got spikes and like rocker zombies and vampires.
Sorry, we shifted gears. Sometimes vampires are portrayed like zombies.
So like, and I always like brotherly stories. I don't really write them too much. Most of my characters are female, like final girls and stuff. But I love brotherly stories.
Me too.
I think it's just like, I don't have a great relationship with my brother, or my brothers. I watch movies and I'm like, I wish that was me.
I get that though. Yeah.
So The Lost Boys it was great because you had Sam and you had Michael, and it was just this nice little isolated story about this kind of like family just trying to overcome everything. And then here's these vampires who just like want to kidnap Michael in a way. Basically, there's like, your friend now. Like, granted, if Michael, like, thought a little less with his hormones, he probably would have been safe. If Michael was like, that's a cute girl, I'll talk to her in the morning, he probably would have been all right. But no.
Would have been a very short movie.
Yeah, he probably would have saw that there on a missing poster somewhere if he would have calmed down for a
That's
little
true.
bit. Yeah. So, and then like the Coreys are in it, and I feel so bad for the Coreys because the Coreys were iconic, and then like Hollywood just kind of ate them up. They just kind of fell apart, and I feel so bad for them. So like I love the Lost Boys. I love seeing that they have kind of like, traditional vampire things, even though you don't really see. Well, you did see them play out when they attacked all the other vampires, and then you got the whole, if you kill the head vampire, everybody else turns back to human. And that would have been nice to know before you murdered all these innocent people, probably.
Helpful information. That was not in the comics. They didn't discuss it early enough in the comics.
No, you could have saved all these kids because they're just runaways. They're just runaways who are vampires now, and they have to eat people. But now they're all dead. So thank you, Michael. This is really all Michael's fault. I'm not even gonna lie.
He just can't get it together.
Because like Star's like, it's blood. He's like, okay. Okay, Star.
Like she's the reason he's there, and suddenly he like can't be bothered. He's
Yeah,
like
he's like,
super dismissive.
I think I know it's wine. Okay, calm down. These are my friends now. So like, oh yeah, Michael's a trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God. Yeah, I have I came into my parents' life, and I was born in 88, but I came into my parents' life a little bit later. So I have siblings that are old enough to be my parents. And so cuz my parents started very young.
Yeah.
And so but I have one of my sisters in particular who's like I think we have like a 12-year age difference.
Mm.
And so she's the one that was the kind of the one that got me to watch stuff. Like when I would go stay at her house on the weekends, like we would watch horror stuff and stuff. But she watched a lot of 80s stuff. So Brat Pack stuff, Lost Boys, like we watched a lot of 80s stuff.
Okay.
And so Lost Boys was one that she actually introduced me to, and it was an immediate favorite because you've got like this very like stylistic like cool approach to what vampires
Yeah.
are. They've got the one little cross earring, and they've got the fancy hair and the big
Mhm.
jackets, and there's this very like these are the cool kids, right? Like it's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
fun. And the music, the soundtrack for Lost Boys is just
The
so
sax
good.
man.
God, it's
The
so
sax man with his saxophone.
Oh yes.
And, like you
He's
can't
still-
hear cry. You can't hear Cry Little Sister without thinking about the
thinking
Lost
of
Boys.
on stage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a great film. And to your point, just like Night of the Living Dead, it's influential to a subgenre as well, because it
Mhm.
really did change this kind of the way that we looked at vampires as far as in general. They became like, I don't know if this is really the start of it, because I'm thinking timeline wise with vampires, but it feels like it's pretty close to when it started, when vampires started being like, they were more like less monster scary and more monster sexy, you know, and
Yeah.
very like, that's when it
They
kind of started to shift. But at least with this, it still maintained that like, these are scary things and they
Yeah.
will kill you like in a
Mhm.
moment's notice. Like it's so good. It's such a
I
great film.
definitely think it shifted to bring
Yeah.
vampires more to a younger crowd. It definitely did, because I feel like we always had like Dracula, and it was always like this mid-30s vampire or mid-40s
Oh,
vampire.
yeah.
And now you had like Michael and Sam, and you have Buffy, and you have all these other people, and whatever Edward was doing, and you have all these people who are running around with young vampires. It's so yeah, it's a fun ride. And plus, my middle name's Peter, so I'm obsessed with Peter Pan. So the whole Lost Boys thing was
just like, oh,
yeah, I was like, this is perfect. This fits. It
this
works.
is made for me. Oh, I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah. It's a great film.
Yeah.
And it's definitely one that is, even just like I said, influential to creating a subgenre as to make it as big as it did, because vampire, like exactly like you said, vampire movies that were made after this, that was the formula, and that was what they, they kind of moved into when they made more stuff in the 90s, and even, or honestly, even the early 2000s.
Oh,
I would say you can easily pick out the things that are connected or inspired rather by the Lost Boys, for sure.
When you see them as human and then they just morph their face into like big old like eyebrow thing, that's all from the Lost Boys.
Yeah.
If he's a pretty human and then he turns into this monster, you thank the Lost Boys for that.
Less Lost Boys. No, for sure. No, you're right. Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, that takes us to your last one, which is Demon Knight, which I actually have not seen.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, Demon Knight is awesome. My wife, her name's Angel too. So
oh wait, I did know that. I saw her Twitter handle. I did know that.
Yeah, so she hadn't seen Demon Knight, and she also hadn't seen Candyman. So I think we watched both of them that week. But yeah, I was just like, you have to watch Demon Knight, because in my house we grew up with Tales from the Crypt. We were always watching Tales from the Crypt. So when those movies came out, I was just like, oh. And then Jada Pinkett Smith is in there. So my sister, she'll watch anything with like a prominent like Black actress in it. Like that's why she took me to go see I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, because she loved Brandy. She took
Yes.
me to see, like, we watched Scream 2 because of Jada.
Jada.
But I found Demon Knight on my own just because of
Okay.
the fact that I was obsessed with Tales from the Crypt. And
Okay.
I love the mythology of it all, the whole fact that it's this key to keep demons in hell, to keep hell locked up, and it's got the blood of Christ in it and all these other
Oh,
demon
cool.
knights who have just kind
Yeah.
of like saturated their blood into it too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's basically the way it starts is this guy is being chased by who you believe is a police officer, and he chases him down to this I want to say it's like a motel or something,
Okay.
but or a boarding house. So he gets there, and the boarding people, they kind of like lock him up, and they're like, oh well, the cops say that you're doing this, and he's like, he's not a cop, he is a demon, and everybody's like, okay. And, yeah, he's like, okay. And then so basically with the blood, he can, if you put the blood at the doorway, it's kind of like salt and stuff. If you put the blood at the doorway, the demons can't cross.
Oh.
So the blood is very important. And
Yeah.
but the blood is in this kind of like chalice thing, which is a key, and that's what the demon needs. So the demon needs that. So they're like, oh yeah, so he's a demon, and the demon's like, yeah, I am. And he's like, I want him. So he's like, if you all want to live, give me him.
Oh no.
And then it's that whole societal breakdown thing, like how evil are these people? What will they do to survive? Yeah, so it's a very fun movie, and it's just a good time. I love everything about Tales from the Crypt. I loved just the whole like story of like EC Comics and how they like went from like educational comics to, hey, we're gonna do horror. And then I love the story about when their editor got called into that like the Congress, like when they were trying to, what do you call it, regulate comic books because they thought they were getting too wild and stuff. So they called him in, and they had his comic, and it was like this dude holding a severed woman's head, and they're like, don't you think this is too much and grotesque? And he's like, no. And then they're just like, what would make it grotesque? He's like, well, if the blood was dripping like we were originally gonna do. I was just like, I'm sure all the other comic book people were like, wow.
I love that.
Yeah.
So there he's like, so see, we did make an effort here to make it
up. Yeah, it's just a severed head.
Yeah, calm down. Not that serious.
Calm down. Yeah. Yeah. So
I'll have to check it out. I wonder if so that came out. You said Jada's in that one. So if she's in it, that came out what, early 2000s? 90s?
Probably early. I want to say it might be earlier than that. I think it's the 90s. Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to see if it's streaming, because I haven't seen that one. I know I have seen of it. I know I've seen
1995. Yep.
There it goes. Because I feel like I've seen the yeah. Okay, so I've seen the what do you call it? The poster for it.
Yeah.
It's not streaming, but you can rent it for like $3. I feel like it's probably worth it.
When we first watched it, it was on Shudder. Shudder, I love Shudder. They rotate a lot though. Like sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, and then I show up, I'm like, oh, it's not there no more.
That is accurate. It's the only stuff that stays is and it's not even really that it stays, because they get rid of their own stuff too. But if it's a Shudder original, you're more likely to have it for a longer period of time. But you're right, they do rotate stuff at an alarmingly fast rate.
Yeah, they do. I'm like, as far as streaming, I think we have like every streaming service there probably is. And we're paying for all of them, but I'm watching Tubi nowadays. So
I know. I go to Tubi a lot, especially because my favorite subgenre of horror is found footage. It's like a gold mine. Not in a gold mine necessarily, in like the fact that the movies are super great.
It's just the quantity.
The access though is very vast. And so you get like a lot of things that, like, just really just random off the wall things that you either didn't know existed or you hadn't seen in a long time. Do you have what's the other one? Screenbox?
No, we had Screenbox when they had like when Terrifier 2
Oh,
came out.
yes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's when we grabbed Screenbox. But no, right now we just
Yeah.
have Shudder. We don't have Screenbox.
Yeah, I have I can't make myself pull the trigger on Screenbox because I like you, I pay like I have all of the
Yeah.
things. And
Yeah.
so I'm just kind of like, I don't know, but it's got some originals that are supposed to come out. One of them is a
Oh,
found footage movie, so I'll probably get it for there. But yeah, I keep hesitating on doing it because I'm like, God,
yeah.
there's so many already.
I didn't know they had originals. Like for me, it was just kind of like, what do they have? Because
Right. Oh, sure.
yeah.
I mean, yeah. I think they just were able to get the money to, but Tubi started doing originals too, but Tubi's free.
Yeah. Yeah, Tubi's free. That's
So
what it is for because I'm just like I'm spending all this money on these apps and I'm watching Tubi.
oh,
Like,
right.
what is going on? Like I'm
Yeah.
sitting there watching Tubi originals. I'm just like, ooh.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's not always something to watch on the ones that you pay for.
Yeah. I do remember like I was watching Tubi for like a good week because I was watching Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction or Fact or
Oh,
Fiction.
yes.
Yes, I was rewatching it on Tubi. I was just like, did it, and then like I got really into it. I wanted to look up one of the stories, and they're like, it's on Peacock. I was like, why am I watching this on why am I watching commercials when I could just yeah, so yeah, but yeah, so I was addicted to that for a good month. I burnt through like everything. So
Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah. Well, cool. So I'm trying to think. I know for sure Scream has been on and Night of the Living Dead, but I think Candyman, Lost Boys, and Demon Knight are first timers for this series.
ooh, yeah, there we
That's
go.
right.
I did something. Tell my
Yeah.
mama.
So, and real, reality or realistically, even when people have the same ones, like I feel like you can have 5 people talk about the same movie and like hardly any of it's going to be the same when
Oh,
you're
yeah.
talking about influence and how it and when you watched it and what it means to you. It's all very different stories anyway, but it is really cool because I've been doing this particular series for 3 years. And so, or almost 3 years. And so to get ones that haven't been on here is starting to not happen as often. So it's cool. No, I loved it. And it's, yeah, and I'll have to check out Demon Knight. I haven't seen that, so I'll have to watch that one.
It's a fun time. I
Yeah.
really did
I have
enjoy
zero doubts that I'll love it. I'm sure I will.
it.
Well, cool. Well, thank you so much for doing this. This was a great conversation. This was fun.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thank you.
Yeah.
I would love to come back any other time.
Hey,
This
yeah,
was
we'll
good.
make it. Yeah, we will make it happen for sure. No, for sure.
Awesome.
And once again, Sylvester's links and particularly for social medias, obviously, but specifically for Camp Lanier, I will put a link for that so people can find it easily and access it and hopefully buy it. Gotta support indie horror, folks. You have to do it. You have to do it. And yeah, that's going to wrap up this episode of Influential Horror. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We hope you have a good rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend, and we will see you in the next one.
See you.